All right, let's be real for a second. We've all been there, right? Staring down a backlog of just tedious work. Little bug fixes, documentation updates, scaffolding out new features. It's the stuff that drains your creative energy, the stuff that just has to get done. But what if you could just hand it off?
Well, that's exactly where something like Jules comes in. Today, we're doing an explainer on this experimental AI coding agent that's designed to act like a brand new teammate, one that you can delegate all that busy work to.
So let's dive right in. First things first, what exactly is Jules, and how does it actually fit into your day-to-day workflow?
At its heart, Jules is an AI assistant built for developers. The best way to think about it is like a junior dev that you can assign tasks to. Whether it's squashing a bug that's been sitting in the backlog, generating documentation for a function, or just getting a new component started.
And here's the real magic, it all works asynchronously. Jules hooks directly into your GitHub repos, and once you give it a task, it just gets to work in the background. You don't have to sit there and watch it. You can move on to the next big creative problem, while Jules handles the details. So you might be wondering, okay, sounds cool, but is it a huge pain to set up? Nope. The whole goal here is speed and simplicity, to get you from signing in to delegating your very first task in just a couple of clicks.
The whole process is super straightforward. You sign in, you connect your GitHub account, which gives Jules access to your repositories, you pick the project you want to work on, and then you just tell it what to do. That's literally it.
And you've got a bunch of ways to kick off a task. You can do it from the main Jules interface, of course, or if you're already looking at a specific repo, you can start from there. But my favorite part, you can trigger a task directly from a GitHub issue just by adding a Jules label. It'll then comment on the issue and link to the PR when it's all done. So cool.
Okay, this next part is super important. How you talk to Jules makes all the difference. It's all about writing a clear prompt and then working with the agent on its plan of attack.
You've got to be specific. Jules thrives on clear, scoped-out instructions. So a vague command like fix everything or optimize the code, well, that's just not going to fly. But something like add a loading spinner while the fetch user profile function is running, now you're talking. Be direct. Be concrete.
Now, this is a huge deal. Before Jules writes a single line of code, it comes back to you with a step-by-step plan. This is your chance to look over its logic, see its approach, and give feedback right in a chat box. If you're happy with it, you click Approve Plan, and only then does it start coding.
And that really gets to the core philosophy here. You are always in the driver's seat. This isn't some mysterious black box that you just hope for the best with. You can pause, give feedback, and change direction at any point. You have full control, period.
All right, so you've approved the plan. Let's go. What happens next? Well, this is where it starts to feel a lot like a real pair programming session. As Jules gets to work, you can literally watch its progress in real time. There's an activity feed that logs every single step it takes. You'll see these little mini diffs for code changes right there in the feed, or you can pop open a full-screen diff editor to see everything. It is totally transparent. And get this, it's not just you watching. It's a two-way conversation. While it's coding, you can jump into the chat and be like, hey, actually, can you add a unit test for that? Or, can you return an empty string there instead of null? It's a genuine interactive process. Once the task is all done, Jules wraps it up with a nice little summary for you. What files were changed, lines of code added, how long it took. And from there, with just one click, you can have it publish a new branch or even create a pull request. And in the commit history, boom, Jules shows up right there as the author, so everything is perfectly clear.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty for a minute. Where is all this work actually happening? Because, security and environment setup are obviously a huge deal for any developer.
This is how it keeps your code safe, and it's pretty smart. Every single task runs in its own secure, sandboxed environment. Jules spins up a temporary Ubuntu Linux virtual machine, clones your repo into it, and does all the work in there. It's totally isolated. Your main codebase is never, ever at risk.
And these little VMs come totally decked out. They're preloaded with a ton of popular tools right out of the box. You've got Node.js, Python, Go, Java, Rust, Docker. Basically, the usual suspects are all there and ready to go.
Now, what if you have a project with a super complicated setup? The kind that takes forever to install all the dependencies? You can create a setup script, and once you know it works, Jules can take a snapshot of that environment. That means for every future task in that repo, it can skip the long setup and get straight to work. It's a massive time saver.
All right, let's be realistic.
things don't always go perfectly on the first try, right? So let's talk about managing your workflow and what to do when things hit a snag.
If a task does fail, it's usually for one of a few common reasons. Maybe the setup script is a little off, that's why you want to use that Run to Validate button early. Or maybe the prompt was just too fuzzy. Or a classic one, you left a long-running process like a dev server in the setup script. Oops. The key is to validate early and keep your prompts tight.
And remember, you're always in charge of the task's lifecycle. If you need to stop Jules mid-task for whatever reason, just hit pause. You can always come back and resume it later. Or if you're finished with a task and just want to clean up, you can delete them permanently right from the repo view.
You can think of that repo view as your dedicated command center for a project. It's the one-stop shop where you can see a complete history of all your tasks, running, completed, or failed. You can manage everything, tweak your environment script, and kick off new tasks, all scoped to that one repository.
So, that brings us to the big question. For you, now that you've seen how Jules can take on bugs, docs, and feature work while you stay completely in control, what's that one annoying, tedious task you'd hand off to it right now?